All right. So what we were discussing earlier is narrative in video games. So one thing that I've heard talks of from journalists, a huge thing, developers, video game developers are hoping to evolve during the next generation, the next 5-10 years is narrative storytelling. They actually, with games like God of War and The Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption, some of the pinnacles of gaming, they actually want it to be a little bit less scripted, to sort of be more open ended. So instead of Songbird crashes through the glass ceiling and fights your character, or Joel and Ellie have a deep emotional conversation, it'll be more open ended, and the world will be shaped around you. So now who you talk to and who you encounter in video games is based on the decision the player makes, and more importantly, how the world looks and feels will be purely player driven.
Didn't Skyrim kind of like touched it a little bit on that? Try to at least do like whenever you
Yeah,
kill like a certain NPC,
Yeah,
it kind of sticks, right?
yeah, they're like
Or
they
yeah.
permanently die, and sometimes that could fuck up over your quest because you.
I'm not sure how much it impacted the
I mean,
world
it
though you live
doesn't,
in. You
but
know, like
like
as a part of it,
certain quests will. Yeah, like I
small
think it
touch.
just cancels like certain quests. You wouldn't you wouldn't be able to finish this storyline if you killed a certain NPC player, or you'd have to like do something else to be able to actually get items. Which I think it's a good idea, but like yeah, it's I feel like it's hard. I don't think we're there yet.
Um, and actually, I was kind of what you guys what game do you think actually started this whole cinematic storytelling? You think it was Naughty Dog with like Drake
Fuck.
that that actually
No.
kind of like made you realize, oh, like video games can actually
No, you're
be
asking for us
um
personally, or are you asking us like what can be credited as? Because like if you're asking for personal, like
Go way back.
I
basically
mean,
both. Just
I would
both.
have to do some research on that. I don't want to like be saying like this.
I
I
got
mean,
you
Metal
some. I can
Gear.
give you some, man.
I mean, just something that you think on top of your head, just to keep the conversation flowing.
Oh yeah. Well, how far back you want to go? You want to talk about last 10 years?
If
You
we're
want to talk
going
about
Nintendo,
20 years
always
back?
gonna just say like Mario Sunshine.
Oh, for,
That cinematic
Well,
narrative.
not
I
that.
mean,
It's just that like for me, it just did so many things differently. Like it's not like cinematic. I'm just saying like its mechanics appeal to so many people.
oh, that game's fuck
Yeah,
Mario
like
Sunshine
it
is fucking
appeals to so many
amazing.
people.
Shit, doesn't get talked about enough.
And like I mean, if you wanted the story mode, it's hard for me honestly. Like my upbringings were like I would play those like movie tie-in games, and like I'd always like
Uh huh.
that's how like I would take in movies sometimes because like as a kid you're not really in control of how you like what movies you go to. It's kind of like what your parents will take you to or what like movies you can watch every once in a while. It's not like I'm gonna get up in the today and I'm gonna go watch this movie that comes out today. So it's just like so the second best thing for me would be like, oh, I'm gonna like uh buy the like the movie tie-in game, which were horrible at, like now that like I actually play quality games, I feel like they're horrible. uh but I mean, like as a little kid, it entertains you, like anything will entertain you. And yeah, and so
Yeah,
I could play them for
definitely.
hours,
Yeah.
and I think just like being able to play a game that's like close to what you would see in a movie, like for me, kind of like made me think like, oh, you could probably execute something better than this. And then like I started playing like Metal
Yeah.
Gear or like other games like that.
Yeah,
It
I
was
would say Metal Gear, dude. Like Metal
it,
Gear
it
really,
left it
I
open for
think.
like like video games could tell a story.
Uh-huh. Like I think Metal Gear was the one where it was just like the music. It made me realize how important a director really is, and like making certain decisions, very art, like whether it's like I guess like story decisions or even like artistic decisions, where to put the music at, and even angles and stuff. I mean, I remember you remember Metal Gear Solid 3 when you kill the boss, and then there's like when she dies, there's just red roses that kind of just
Yeah.
blossom around her. Like I love that shot. Like that's just
Yeah.
such a memorable shot, you know?
Yep.
I
Yep.
think that also for me, what also got me into like video games was like I don't know if you guys remember the like the demo discs. I forgot what they were called.
Oh yeah.
No, for PlayStation, like the ones that would come in like the magazines, the Jump Start disc or whatever. I forgot what they were called, but so we would buy those because it was like you'd go to GameStop and it's like $5, you know. Like I remember you'd go in there and buy like four for $20, and it'd have like a bunch of different level games of like games that were either up like coming up or like that's how you got your demos. You didn't just go to the store and download them, you know. You went and bought like these demo discs. And so I remember we got one that was like they had this game called War of the Monsters, where like you got to fight like with monsters, which they weren't specifically named, but it's basically like King Kong versus Godzilla versus like other stuff. And like it was a fun game. Like the mechanics were great. They had like these items you can pick up and throw. Like
Reminds me of
yeah,
Rampage.
it literally does. It's kind of like a rampage like fighting. And so like the story
Uh-huh.
in the game was that aliens crashed down on Earth, and like the fluids leaked over, and like like there's different monsters with their own backstories, but they tell you like, oh, this monster like like was created in the lab when they were experimenting with the alien like goo, and so that's like a mantis, and like they show you the backstory, and it's like, oh, like that's a monster flick, you know, but it's a video game, you can play it. It's like the story itself is kind of wanky, but it's like it's really just like a monster flick. And it's a great monster flick when you can do like, like I said, they're not named, but it's like King Kong and Godzilla. Like that's what I call them. Like I'm the
They're essentially,
they're
yeah. They
essentially.
were essentially,
And then there's a
yeah.
giant like mantis monster, and then like there's an electricity eye monster. There's like an alien. There's like these Gundams. It's just like it's fucking. It's literally just like a monster flick, but you can play it. And I remember that was like one of the first games I bought after I had the demo, and that was like like playing it like that, and in your mind it's like this is a movie. That's kind of like how I approach games. Like I honestly didn't really do multiplayer until like Modern Warfare 2. I remember that's when I actually jumped into like multiplayer. Um, oh, and then like I legit, I think one of the things that made me think like games could be movies or like their worst entertainment bundle is when you fuck. I think the first game I like that drew me into it was when I played Devil May Cry. That's why I love Devil May Cry, because it's like the first game I remember that I'm like, I played the demo, bruh, and like I played it over and over again, because it's like it was one of those time demos where you're given this like level to complete, and you can like rush through it and finish it real quick and like get a little bit of like the next level just before you finish. So it's like the faster you get, like the more they showed, and or at least that's how I remember it. I'm not 100% on that. That's how I've always interpreted. But then I bought the actual game, like I convinced my dad to get it because I was like, oh, like you gotta play the demo, you know. Like I said, you're a kid. You don't control what you buy and what you don't buy. So I like convinced my dad to like get it because I was like, oh, I showed it to him, like it's Dante, it's a dude wearing fucking red, just killing demons, and like he was free sold on it too, and he would like he bought it, he played it, and I remember like he would get stuck and I'd fucking like play the game and actually beat the game, and I was like, I really fucking love that game. Uh, I would actually help my dad beat it, you know. Like it's a
Definitely.
memory.
Like you said, we can't control the games we get, but we definitely like gravitate towards more as we like grow up and we remember like for you it was like Devil May Cry, and like you'd always remember like the lore or even like the personality of Dante's like kind of like always with you. Like I'm cheating a little bit, but I'm gonna take another Capcom game and I'm gonna mention Beautiful Joe.
This boy, you've been
Um,
talking about it all week.
right, essentially, because I mean, it was a game that was basically it was a game about if you had film powers, and um, it's something that like I feel like I've got more appreciation towards more. Um, like it was just it was also very like the animations, the art style was really like nice. The characters were cool. Like Joe's were like a really cool character, and just the game mechanics is just really fun. Like I never got bored of it, and just fun.
So like thinking about like Beautiful Joe, and I'm glad you brought it up. It's one of those things,
Hideki
cause
Kamiya.
huh?
Hideki Kamiya made it.
Yeah.
Same guy. I thought you were gonna say.
No, for me it was more of like Beautiful Joe was one of those games where like I waited on it because like I didn't really know too much of it, and then
Uh,
I remember the CW show coming on, and I was like, oh, I was like,
Oh.
I need to play this. And so like I played it, and I was like, I was really glad I did, but I was upset that I hadn't played it earlier.
uh,
And that's kind of like what happened with like Doom, where I'm like, oh fuck, man, like I should have jumped on this when like it was fresh.
yeah. I only played the first one, and yeah, I remember that show you're talking about. It was on it was on W Kids. Uh, Fuck, I was like, I don't know. Back then, when there was like shows based on like on video games, I was such a stickler. Like, man, it's like it's not the same voice actors, it's not the same, blah blah blah. Like, I was really like diehard, um, like because I know they did like a Sonic one, and I was like, oh, like are they using the same voice actors? Um, that was kind of threw me off a bit because I was just so like diehard fan, for the game, and I was hoping everything
I mean,
translated
talking voice
well.
actors, bro. I think that like you always gotta praise the man, uh, the voice behind Kratos. Uh, the newest one, man,
Which
the
one? The
recent
one that just
one.
reads the
He hit
recent
me
one?
so deep. It's the dude from
Oh, Chris
yeah,
Judge.
Chris Judge, dude. I didn't want to say
Damn,
his
he was
name,
good, man. Boy.
dude. I like every time I hear someone say "boy," I'm just like I just hear Kratos, like boy,
Boy. Oh boy.
boy.
Uh, and how did you initially feel before you heard Chris Judge's voice? Because some people were kind of critical of it. They were just like, "Oh, why? Like he was like the previous guy was done it for so long,
So
blah blah
for
blah."
me,
You know.
the way I played God of War was like, I went from the PS2 one. It's like you played the first one. Uh, like I said, it's like you have to sell. So when you're a kid, especially in my household, like, cause my dad was a gamer, so it was easy for me to like get most of the games. But it was like I had to like sell it to him, like I had to convince him that this is a game he wanted, not that I wanted. And so it was just like God of War. I remember we would get like the Game Informer magazines, uh I don't know what were they called before the ones when like EV Game was around. You'd get those magazines like
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was
Game
Game
Insider?
Insider.
Not
And then
Game
I
Insider?
remember they had one in particular where it was like
Uh-huh.
the God of War cover where you see Kratos standing there with like in front of the temple, and I was just like, I just got that magazine, and I'm like, I literally, I feel like it's those memes where the guy just comes into the meeting and like flips the water bottle, and it lands perfectly, and then he just walks out. That's what I did, bro, with the magazine. I just threw that shit in there, opened it to like the page where it was about God of War, and I'm like, you gotta buy this game, and like he bought it, and like he got hooked on that shit immediately. So like
Hey,
he
hey. So as a fan of Devil May Cry, how did you think the combat held up towards in God of War? Because they were going after Devil May Cry with the combat.
like what do you mean, like which one do I prefer?
No, but I mean, like when you played the first God of War, right? Like, because
Well, because it's
same genre.
derivative. So I think they did their own thing. That's why it's hard for me to compare it because like it felt unique. They did a really good job. I thought it was like great for what we had back then, like the limitations. Uh, and I mean like the combat in itself evolved. Like you cannot compare them because now you have God of War, and like which changed up its style, and you have Devil May Cry 5, which kind of stayed true to like the original. They just kind of like got what worked from every game and improved on it. Like I think Devil May Cry 5 is a culmination of like every single Devil May Cry before it, or at least that's how I feel. I think that if you're gonna talk about the combat, then I think that they both kind of did their own thing and that they established themselves. And as such, I think that both games' combat systems are like really enjoyable. And like I think if they were competing, I would like to think that they both saw what each other were doing and that they were like kind of like sticking to their guns because like if they were competing, they didn't compromise, they didn't change what they were doing. They kind of just like I said, improved on what they did before. Um, you'd have like I remember God of War. One of my biggest criticism was like the dodge button was like on the roll thing. Like you'd have to do it on your right stick. to dodge, and it was like you couldn't control the camera because of that. And so like the camera was just kind of like would sometimes be an issue, you know. Um, and it also hinder your movement when you're like you're dodging with that right stick. It felt weird, but they did fix it, and now like I feel like God of War handles like a dream. Uh, like every playthrough I've done of it has been enjoyable, and like every freaking fight that you have is just feels when you're dominating everyone and just standing on people's faces and crushing them in. It's just it's enjoyable.
The new one.
Yeah, like the new one, I think three was great. If and the old system, you know, like that's where the old system, the combat system was pretty great too.
Oh yeah,
On yeah, on like God of War 3.
that the first fight was with against Poseidon.
Yeah, dude, you fucked that boy up.
Yeah, that was a really good
Yeah.
introduction to it.
Also, like you know how we were talking about how we would pitch a game to someone.
Uh
Um, that was one of mine. Like God of War 3. Like
God of War 3.
if you're not hooked by the first fight, this game is not for you. That's all I gotta say. Like if fucking this game sells itself, bro, you kill gods, you go to hell, and you're just too angry to stay down there. You know. What about you, Tori? Haven't heard anything from you in a bit.
Yeah, man. God of War. All I gotta say is the charge up hammer attack. We kind of can charge it up, like hold it, and then crush into somebody. That's so satisfying. Oh,
The
I can
crutch,
do that
yeah,
every
yeah.
morning. It just feels good, right? Like that's right my vibration in the controller, the way it looks when he just like
The
like
axe, right?
yeah, when
When
you
he
hold it,
like,
when you hold right trigger, you know what I mean. You hold it
oh
and
fuck yeah,
you hold it, you go and you slam it. And like if you hold it all the way and
you
do it to
feel
like
it.
a regular anime, it actually like crunches into their shoulder. And you kind of like slice through them a bit, like it
If
goes and it goes cuts
so,
them in
that's
half.
one thing I say that like when you're gonna play a video game, you gotta have rumble, right? You have to have rumble, and you have to have this good sound system for it to immerse you in.
Yeah,
Like, I think that they should do like a dummy controller so that you know if someone's watching you play, they can just hold it and feel what you're feeling.
yeah.
Like just the rumble wise, it could literally just be a rumble machine that just echoes whatever you're feeling, the haptic feedback, you know? Because
I mean, you just
they're saying that the PS5 controller is supposed to be like really sensitive, and it's like when you're gonna press the trigger button to shoot, like you're gonna feel the weight of like if it was an actual gun, you know, like they're gonna be able to like adjust the pressure.
oh, that's what the Xbox One controller has.
Yeah,
Rumble triggers.
yeah. So they're saying that like on the new systems, they're gonna be like tuned to the point where like game designers can put how much pressure they want each controller to like, you know,
Damn, that's gonna be sick.
like
I
imagine.
hope the controller doesn't die quite fast though. That's the
Nah,
only
they're.
thing.
I mean, let's see what happens, man.
Good
I can't
battery on
speak
it.
too fast on it. Like
Put a good
what we
battery
got
on
on
that.
paper right now sounds like they know what they're doing. No, they are.
Oh, they're
Apparently,
definitely
they're
doing
doing
that.
that.
That's definitely happening. They already had that add on to the for the PS4 controller. They're definitely doing that for the PS5. That's already coming.
So how do you guys feel about that? Like, cause from my point of view, it's like I don't need extra buttons. I just grew up spoiled. Like I just grew up with the standard PS2 controller. Like you know, no, well from the PS1. Like
I'm fine. I just think the analog sticks can use a little work, you know. But I mean, I'm fine. Like I'm fine with the controller, you know. Like like over the time I've learned how to play claw, so it's just like but like in the buttons like just playing it like the way I can play any way I want and I'll be comfortable. So that's fine.
Wait,
But
Claw, what's that?
it's when you use your index finger to press buttons. It's mostly for college, like for FPS. But you use your index finger to press the buttons and use your middle finger to press the trigger. So yeah, you won't let go of your controller whatsoever.
Index finger to press button, and middle finger to press the trigger.
it's better for you to look it up, to be honest.
Oh,
Yeah,
claw like that. Why you play
Yeah,
like that?
he got used to it.
it's just it's just
Oh,
something I've learned over time. Like one of my friends
oh,
used to
okay.
play it.
I see the
Um,
benefits here. You can press multiple buttons faster now. Instead of having just one, the thumb to press each button, you can kind of press
you
two at a
just won't
time.
let go of your analog stick, so you're always aiming, and you can like jump simultaneously or just press buttons simultaneously without having to like give up something. So it's easier to get a paddle though for sure.
So my criticism on like current controllers for like we're playing on the PS4, so we can say that on the PS4 is that like the touchpad, like you can be playing a game, and I don't know if this happens to you guys, but like my finger will like barely touch the touchpad and it'll activate like the menu, and I'm like, bruh, like you need to space this out a little bit more or like make it smaller, you know? Like we shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It's yeah, it's a really big button, and it's like it's at this point it's barely used. It's only used as a stylus sometimes, but it's. I don't really see that many game developers incorporating it too much. It was just like a gimmick, right? It was just
Yeah, it feels like a gimmick. I mean, like, if you think about it, one game that I hated how I had to use it. I hated how I had to use the fucking controller. I mean, some people might have liked it, but Infamous Second Son, the graffiti sections,
Oh,
I
oh
fucking
yeah,
hated those,
yeah,
bro.
those are boring.
Because I was like, bro, I was literally just destroying like tanks and shit, and now I'm doing a graffiti, and I had to like shake my controller, like move it
Yeah, I hated
sideways.
that. It's weird.
Like, all right, it was cool the first time you did it.
Yeah, it was. Afterwards, like, oh, it's tedious.
Yeah, bro, it wore out.
for example, like I really like the 360's analog stick. I think that was like a very like comfortable, like very agile, very precise kind of like analogs compared to like concave like PS4, like how it's just kind of in there and just I don't know. I feel like the Xbox. That's one thing I like about Xbox's analogs. It was just it felt like you're very precise with your movements.
I mean, honestly, man, uh, like I said, I grew up with Sony, and it's just that feels comfortable to me. I don't know. I feel like I don't need extra buttons. Like, I maybe I'm just old, I guess
Uh
now.
huh. Or make the like or like make the triggers like actually more thinner. I feel I
Like
actually kind of like
responsive,
that one.
I guess I would say.
Yeah, but I mean that's a small minor things, but um, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. What's on paper right now, it's like it's interesting. Let's wait it out.
I mean, it's come a long way. I mean, we think about like how we start from Super Nintendo, fucking how that was controller, then the fucking 64. How it's just very interesting when the beginning stages of like everything is just very they're experimenting and they think, oh, this is the way to do it, and then over time how it's like completely become how it's revolutionized over time.
Yeah. So on that note, though, let me try this transition. So I remember. I don't know if you guys remember, but like on the flea market, you'd ever go to the flea market and get those system where it was like a controller with a cartridge that would like
You play all the other most of the other games, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
on that note, it was like so we were there when the Super Nintendo was like on its last leg. You know, as kids played it. Uh, then the PlayStation came along and we got on that. The Sega. We've seen so many consoles come and go. We've seen so many peripherals tried. Um, I think we were talking about VR the other day. What's your view on VR as a whole? Like, is it practical? Do you think the technology will be there? Like, how long do you think it'll take for us to be there, for it to be?
Let me go first, man. Let me go first, man. I've changed. That first off, when they first started doing the VR stuff, a few years ago, especially this gen, I was like, look, man, especially Oculus, it's too expensive. You need a high end PC. The stuff they showed on consoles, it was because you have to have a really high frame rate in order for VR to even be smooth, right? And not get motion sickness. It looked kind of gimmicky. Wasn't quite there. The only thing I really liked from VR that really impressed me was Rigs, that little net game. Kind of reminded me of IGPX, the anime IGPX from Konami a bit. That's one thing that really impressed me. But as the technology kind of evolved over the last few years, I always thought a good any game that kind of puts you like in a kind of cockpit, like a racing game or like an airplane game, like the new Ace Combat game. To me, that'd be amazing. Like to look around like that and actually be there. That looks amazing. But I always thought, it's a pipe dream, right? It's too expensive. It's just who wants to spend, more than 500 bucks on or 400 bucks on a damn VR headset, right? Um, so I'm like, a good VR game is at least 5, 8 years away. Then
Half
Half Life
life.
VR gets announced. Oh my god, sweet lord, that is the huge game changer. That looks like the future technology smacking us in the face right now. Like some Tony Stark stuff, the visuals, the textures, what they're able to do. Like just to be in an actual world that's a detail and has actually good combat, like first person shooter combat. That is freaking amazing, man. Like it's closer than I think. The technology is clearly there. Valve, I'm reading and watching all the interviews with them. They have a thing called Source Engine, and they use a call Source Engine 3. They're saying like, yeah, look, if we're definitely looking to release this out, if people want to, developers want to use it and buy it and try it for their games. So it's coming sooner than we think. It's just like I said, is if more and more people buy it, I just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities with video games, man. And I'm definitely looking forward to it.
So note on Half Life. I didn't know too much of the series, and I looked into it, and I think it's one of those things where like Half Life is like every time a new Half Life is released, they try to like push the limits of what's available at the time. You know, like they try to go to the next level, and that's something that I feel like is commendable, and it's like we owe a lot to Half Life. And I think that we need more producers like that, that they want to break boundaries and they want to make their own like silver bar, you know? Like they want to set the bar for someone else to break it the next time, and I think we need that. Uh, anyway, CT, back to you on VR.
Real quick,
Yeah,
the way, because I'm playing Half Life 2 right now for the first time, but I never played the original. But the way that when I was in my first job I had, like at like 18 at some CVS, my boss was a huge gamer. The way he broke down Half Life to me was, you know how nowadays in video games where like you're a character and they give you a mission and you go through that mission and stuff like it's interactive stuff happens and you get to the objective, complete the mission, go back, and more stuff happens, more missions. They were the first game
yeah.
to do that. Games weren't really like that too much. There wasn't a lot of voice acting and narrative and story. They were one of the first games to do that with Half Life. To actually have the world change in front of you. Like usually in games, you're kind of seeing like the aftermath. Like you're in hell, it's already destroyed. Now you got to kill these things. You're actually seeing it unfold in front of you. Like you're the cause of it. They were the first games to put these sort of elements into video games. So just want to say that, yeah.
Uh huh. Yeah, I think. I mean, well, you guys said like to be more immersive, and I think that's like the ideal goal for like video games. You know, to completely go immersive. And I think that's like a dream where, like, I mean, like, fuck, like, to get to a point where we're like just like Ready Player One, right? Like the whole virtual reality to that point. You know, I think. I mean, for me, that kind of spoils me from like VR, where it's like it's not as it's not as what I think it is. You know, I think it's also because it's still in its infant stages, and the technology is just not there. But I, it's tricky, right? Because like some companies want to do it, you know, and they want to take their hand at it. But I just feel like the technology it's getting there. I feel, and I'm hoping it does.
So how do
But
you like? What's your timeline projection like? Do you think this would happen in like next 10 years, five? I mean, it can't be worse than 3D, right? It can't be worse than 3D.
Movie
Like, bruh,
with that shit.
whose parents went out and bought a 3D TV thinking it was gonna be the next big thing?